We covered it here. President's rally in Texas on Monday. It may have caused a reaction that the Trump campaign did not want or anticipate. By picking the hometown of El Paso native Beto O'Rourke, some argue the Trump event actually elevated O'Rourke's standing in the 2020 race with split-screen coverage like that. Days before, headlines were hinting that the rising star may have missed his window of opportunity to hop into 2020, but now this headline from the Dallas Morning News editorial team asks the question, did Donald Trump just launch Beto's presidential campaign? Well, he's yet to formally announce anything, but our own intrepid Garrett Haake caught up with O'Rourke Monday to find out where the potential candidate stands.
This is powerful. This is positive. This is peaceful. This is the best of the country.
We're walking fast, but I hear a lot of people chanting about running. I mean, where are you on that decision?
I ran this morning about 3 miles and feel awesome.
O'Rourke told Oprah last week, and yes, he's big enough to be interviewed by her. He'll decide by the end of the month. And while he mulls that over, Democrats may be growing impatient, waiting for past candidates, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, to answer the question, will they or won't they? Well, with us tonight to talk about all of it, Todd Gilman, Washington bureau chief for the Dallas Morning News, and the proud product of the state of Texas, our own intrepid Garrett Haake, who is back from covering that event in El Paso. Gentlemen, good evening to you both. Todd, it strikes me you have the unique role of covering Washington for Texas, though if I were you, I would stay in Texas. I guess I'm asking for your straight-up prediction. Do you think the guy's going to get in?
I do. I mean, if he's not going to run for president, I don't really understand why he is showing so much ankle, going on Oprah, holding this rally. This was not really it was a counter rally against President Trump, but it was also a lot about Beto O'Rourke. He's living his life out in public quite a lot for someone who isn't running for president, so I would bet that he will run.
Though, Garrett, I have to say, those who view politics traditionally, the guy lost, and you heard Trump react that way on the stump. The guy lost his race. He gave up his House seat. He lost his race for Senate. Yet, Garrett, the event you covered really seemed to have, as you mentioned, a campaign feel.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brian, the last two presidents of the United States came from fairly non-traditional backgrounds, too. So I don't think the fact that he lost this Senate race is in and of itself disqualifying. I think if sometime next summer Beto O'Rourke is the Democratic nominee for president, we will look back on Monday night and say that was a huge part of the reason why. This is somebody who had largely disappeared from the national stage since that loss in early November. And this was an opportunity to get back in the mix. The president came to his hometown, challenged him on his signature issue of immigration, and O'Rourke held his own. He got punched in the mouth a little bit, but he's got that taste of blood in his mouth, and he got something that presidential candidates and aspirants can't buy. He got that split-screen moment with the President of the United States trading punches in prime time. It became the national political story for the next 24 hours, his back and forth with the President of the United States. And if this was someone who was on the fence about whether or not he could do this at the high level, I think O'Rourke, and from my conversations with the people around him, all got a boost of confidence from this event Monday as they lean into whether or not to press the go button on this decision.
Well, Todd, our friend Garrett makes a good case, as he often does, and you couldn't get a more diametrically opposite guy. Just, Todd, you look at his last road trip where he was journaling his feelings while on the road. Don't hear a lot of that from Donald Trump.
No, very introspective, very poetic even, and the kind of self-description that you absolutely never hear, not just from Trump, but really from anyone running for president. Beto's I think it was his first entry in this week-long road trip, solo road trip, was how he was in a funk because he had lost to Ted Cruz and he was trying to get his head together. And then he goes into small-town America, nothing to do with Iowa, nothing to do with New Hampshire. No apparent political agenda or calculus, just kind of retracing some of his roots and then just sort of getting to meet college students and going to Starbucks and posing for selfies. He's either recharging his batteries or he's extremely needy of attention once he is off the campaign trail. But again, this does look like somebody who's preparing for president, and I think Garrett makes a terrific point. I think that if Beto lacked the fire in the belly, if he was really, truly wavering on whether to run for president, this opportunity that President Trump gave him by coming to the border, and the one issue that Beto is really passionate about is the border is not as unsafe as Trump says it is, and the wall is a dumb idea. This is Beto's signature issue. It really got him juiced up.
And Garrett, let's talk about your home state. I don't know if during your flight in it appeared out the airplane window to be any more purple than usual, but I say that because Senator Cornyn is coming up for re-election. Number 2 in the GOP management structure in the Senate. He's a big target. And Chuck Schumer would very much like Beto O'Rourke to run for Senate again in Texas and take some of that, his ability to raise $70 million out for a spin again, as opposed to adding to a crowded field for president, correct?
That's correct, but I think it's highly, highly unlikely, Brian. In all of my conversations with people close to Beto O'Rourke since he lost that race, not one time, not a single time has anyone connected with O'Rourke mentioned to me the possibility of him running for Senate again. I mean, the idea of taking on Ted Cruz, someone who is such a polarizing figure, even within Texas, even within the Republican Party, is one thing. But O'Rourke actually has some degree of respect for John Cornyn, who is a much more middle-of-the-road Republican. I think it's a lot harder to get fired up to do the same thing again against a guy who you actually kind of think is okay, despite the fact that he's a member of the other party. I think if O'Rourke is going to get into this, based on my conversations with people around him and with folks in Texas, it'll be in that presidential race. Now, there are plenty of people in El Paso, plenty of people who've followed O'Rourke's career, who think maybe he's not ready, maybe he should take another run at the Senate race or wait a couple years and run for governor. But I think just from getting to know him and the people around him, the idea of getting that fired up to do the same thing again against a guy who they find much less disagreeable doesn't hold a lot of water.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.